Big news! Wayfair's President's Day clearance is on now, and you can score tons of huge deals. Like Wayfair's best deals since Black Friday. Right now through February 16th, you can score up to 70% off everything home at Wayfair. Like up to 50% off mattresses with fast and easy shipping straight to your door. Plus amazing flash deals on President's Day. Shop Wayfair's President's Day clearance now through February 16th.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Welcome to Seeing with Your Soul, the podcast aimed to inspire you to find your voice and become the best, truest, and most authentic version of yourself. Spiritually intimate, soul-to-soul conversations, life-changing insights, and spiritual teaching and healing. Real, raw, unfiltered. Join your host, Tisha Michelle.
Welcome and welcome back to another episode of Seeing with Your Soul with me, Tisha Michelle, your host. Hi guys. All right, I have a quick announcement. So this is going to be my last new episode of season 1. I will be taking some time off, but in the meantime, I'm going to be releasing some older episodes. So this will be the perfect time to go back and listen to the ones you haven't before, or if you're absolutely new here, like, oh, welcome, then all of the episodes are going to be new to you. How exciting. Also, a good thing about catching re-released episodes is when it originally aired, it may not have fully resonated with you, and that's okay. And the second time around, it just hits differently. So I'm probably going to be taking off about a month or so. I've already been working on some new podcast interviews with some dope ass guests and some they're definitely dope, but the conversations are very elevated. There's some elevated conversations I'm going to be bringing to you in season 2. And in between this space and this time, me taking off, I'm definitely going to be really putting a lot of energy into my youngest daughter's healing journey. So more about that a little bit later into the episode. So yeah, I still want you guys to pop in and support me and, and check out those re-released ones, and we will rock out in season 2 in about a month or maybe a month and a half. So, yeah. All right. So let's jump into some gratitude. So in this moment, I'm definitely going to say that I'm grateful for not being afraid to speak up and use my voice. More on that a little bit later. But right now, what are you guys grateful for? So it's your turn. But before we express that, let's get a little centered. You already know, unless you don't know. Now you do. We're going to get grounded here together. Unless you're driving, I want you to go ahead and just close your eyes. And I want you to take a nice deep breath. And you're just going to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Yes, relax. You take another nice deep breath, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Let's just do one more together. Another nice deep breath, breathing in through your nose. Yes, and just let it out through your mouth. Relax. All right, what's up, guys? What you grateful for? Express that gratitude. Say it out loud. Say it in your head. Yell it, scream it. Put me on pause. Go and journal it. Just express that gratitude. So much to be grateful for. Absolutely so much to be grateful for. All right. So complete transparency. I lost faith in doctors about 8 years ago. And it all stemmed from when my grandmother was sick. It was just the way that it happened, to the misdiagnosis, the way that it was delivered, to the actual diagnosis. It was like really hard to wrap my head around someone who had been expressing about pain that they've been in and getting doctors and getting tests and all these things. Tests were like benign. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, you have cancer. And then a month later we're burying her. So when we started tracing back with the different doctors and emergency rooms and all this stuff, it was just like, yo, this shit's just not what they're saying now. The math ain't mathing. Just wasn't adding up. And it made absolutely no sense. So I lost faith in doctors. I was like, man, I'm not even going to the doctor. I'll just thug it out myself. I'll figure shit out. on my own. And if I did go to the doctor, I would see how they would just be so in and out and not really like, no real, like they're just hot second, and they didn't really try to get to know you, or just, you just was another patient, patient, dot, dot, dot. I don't know. Another thing I also noticed is that when I would tell them what I think would be wrong with me or going on with me, they would stop there. It would just stop at that. They wouldn't try to look for anything else. They wouldn't do anything else. It would just be like, oh, this is what you're saying. Like, oh, okay. And there's kind of like a catch-22. And you do want to listen to your body. And I mean, at that time, I wasn't even really in tune with myself as I am now. So I'm just like, oh, I think it's this. And it was probably something that I just Googled, or I was on WebMD, thought I was dying. But like, they didn't put any more effort into anything. Like, this is completely always made me think about it. I remember one time something happened with my uncle. He got into a little trouble with the law. And I remember the detective asking me questions, and I was like, I really told the detective, I was like, I'm not answering that. I was like, I'm not going to do your job for you. You got to figure that out. And it was like, you wanted me to give you this information instead of you trying to figure it out. And that's like how it was. I felt with doctors. It was like, oh, you're just listening to that. And it was like, oh, yep, that's that. And it wasn't like, I wasn't no doctor. I wasn't even in tune with myself. So anyway, I just lost a lot of faith in doctors. So what I wanted to talk to you today about was being an advocate for your child. So at the time of you listening to this episode, I should definitely be back in Richmond, Virginia. So we went to Arizona. We've been in, some of you know, if you've been following my journey, I travel between both places, but I've been in Richmond a lot more because of some foundational things I'm building with the real estate investing and opening another home care agency. It had me in, actually, I've been in Virginia for like the last 5 months, and I hadn't been back to Arizona. But I decided to go back to Arizona. We were just going to be an in and out trip. Me and my youngest daughter, we were going to go from a Tuesday to a Monday, get in, get out, get some of that good weather, that sun, recharge with that energy. That was all my intentions behind it and stuff, right? She's going to go see her friends. Great. Well, we got there that Tuesday, and then that Saturday she got sick and we ended up in the ER. I'm thinking she probably had like a little stomach bug or something, because she was vomiting and she just was like weak. She doesn't like the doctors herself. So the fact that she said she wanted to go to a doctor, I was like, okay, something's really going on. And we get to the doctor, and the whole emergency room was a whole ordeal. We didn't even get to the back of the room till 3 hours later. At this point, it's like midnight. And, they check your blood and your urine and all that good stuff. And she was extremely dehydrated. Now, this is the only thing that she drinks is water. That's all she drinks is water for the past few years. She doesn't drink any juice, any soda, nothing, just water. Nothing in her water, just pure water. Like, amazing, because that's not me. Anyway, they say she's at her, like they check like, her electrolytes and stuff, and she's extremely dehydrated. So they were like, yeah, we're admitting her. We're admitting her. She needs to be pumped with just nonstop fluids. I'm like, okay. So we get sent upstairs, and where they're like, checking all these numbers and stuff of hers, and she's like malnourished and her iron is low. So let me give you a quick backstory. So she's been seeing a hematologist and a GI doctor. So she does have some issues and concerns with her blood that it's a mystery. They have yet to figure out. It's like she has these instances where her iron is completely low, which then she doesn't have any. Her iron and her ferritin is low, and she is weak, and just has just some issues into there. So to see that those numbers are low does not surprise me, because last year she had to get iron infusions at the Children's Hospital, right? So there's that, right? So I'm giving them her history and telling them what's going on. And like I said, when they're checking her number, they're seeing like that it's malnourished. So she has issues with absorbing like nutrients and things. And even when she gets the iron infusion, her numbers will go up. And then once they give her a treatment, then it'll go back down. She doesn't eat much, right? So she gets full fast. And if any of you are familiar with like iron and like anemia and stuff, like it'll mess up like your appetite. So sometimes you could be completely cool and be banging out and just eating stuff in your face, but then it'll mess with your appetite. So you're just not hungry, and you know that you need to eat, but you're just not hungry and you can't force it. So these are all things that are not new to her, but the way she's feeling now is just to like the 10th power. So There's still this mystery. They're trying to get the vomiting, and she's just throwing up everything. If she takes a sip of water, that's coming up, but it's nothing but like, what is it in your stomach? Like acid in your stomach. So you have to understand, you think if you've ever vomited before and there's nothing in your system, it's like, what are you throwing up? So then that puts pain, on everything. It takes a whole toll on your body. You're already dehydrated. Your iron is already low. So you have no energy. She's really lost a lot of weight. And to keep it 100, it was awful. It was awful to have to go through for me. So can you imagine what it was like for her, right? So as a mom, you're like, rubbing her back as she's vomiting and having something in your hand to like wipe her, helping her get to the bathroom because now she's hooked up to like the IV. It was just a whole ordeal. And yeah, so they have a social worker came in the next day, and I'm like, okay, here we go. But you know what? Do your job or whatever. So the social worker is like talking to me, asking me like these questions and like, oh, is it dad in the picture? Because of the malnourished, right? So, and like her levels and all. So, okay, do what you got to do. But, it was cool. The social worker actually was really cool. We were talking, and there was something that I said, and whatever it was that I said triggered her to ask me a question. And she was asking me it basically about her son and her son's girlfriend. So I was like, okay, God, I see you. So here I am now channeling and giving these messages where we think it's for one thing or it's about my daughter, but it was actually really about giving you this information here. So I love how, God will use me and my gift and my channeling. So that was great. Built a, great rapport with her. Seeing the social worker, like 2 days later, we still in the hospital. I was like, hey, I know you. And she was like, wait, what? You're still here? I was like, yeah. She's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I did not even know that you were still here. So then the next day she comes into the room and she comes to check on me. She's like, how are you doing? Is there anything that I can do for you? Right. I'm just showing you the history with the social worker. Right. Cool. So then we get into, they're still trying to figure out, they're running these tests. They wanted to give this medicine. I didn't rock with it. They were trying to give that particular medicine for like 2 days, but the side effects behind it, and we were just like, we don't know about this. She was just going to try to thug it out. But we ended up giving in to taking that medicine the one time, and it did help. It helped her to sleep. And a lot of you know that our body needs to rest. Our body absolutely needs to rest in order to, do what it needs to do to heal itself, to get strong enough to even fight this fight. It needs to rest, right? So you can't just keep pushing and pushing and pushing off of like no fumes, no energy, no nothing. Your body needs to rest. So the medicine did let her sleep. So she was able to just sleep, right? I'm in the hospital. I'm like, you want me to do Reiki? So I do Reiki on her. This is like day 2, I believe. No, day 1 was a Saturday. So it's like probably day 3 that I think. And I do Reiki on her that night. And I went to the gift shop. I got like some essential oils, like a healing bracelet, like all these little things and stuff that I have like at home and stuff. Like, I didn't have, obviously with me, and just like set the mood and had this, nice Zen music playing. And I'm doing Reiki on her because I'm like, fuck this shit. We attacking this from the Western side. We from holistic praying. Like only a couple of people knew what was going on. And they were all like praying and sending healing. And some of my clients who turned friends are so dope because like they knew, because my retreat was coming up, and I had to make that, choice to reschedule that retreat because, I got to focus on my daughter. And things that they were saying and how they were praying and the energy that they were sending, shout out to you, Vanessa, because she was so dope and amazing through the whole thing. And she was, not only was she praying for her, she was also sending her energy to like all of her cells and everything like in her body. And that shit works, y'all. That shit works, and that shit means a lot. It's not emptiness. Like, oh, I'm praying for you, hope you get better. It's like when you're being intentional what it is, and you're intentionally sending energy into this, and it's more than one. That shit is powerful, 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 right? So, that was that. And just trying to get her stabilized, just trying to get her, I'm logging into her portal for her hematologist and her GI back in Richmond, Virginia. Be logging into there, showing the GI doctor here, all of the records. So let me plug this in. If you guys go to a hospital or a doctor and they offer a portal, get it. sign up and register for the portal to have access, because you'll have access to all your records. And if you ever get like blood testings and stuff, you get the results before the doctor even call you, because it'll pop up all up in there. But it's good to have everything documented in there, and what the doctors, summary were, if they did any like scopes and stuff, they have the pictures. So if God forbid anything happens, or you're in another hospital or something is going on, you don't have to rely on your memory, because what's hard to do is when you're under that type of stress and someone like me, I have 4 kids, trying to remember everything with everyone and making sure that I'm getting these things in the dates and the times to correct. It's a lot. I'm only human, right? And your brain can be overloaded. But when you have that portal access, it's like, okay, all right, here, let me back up. Okay, this is when this was. This is what this was. This is what they did. This is what this was. This is what her baseline looks like. This is what this is out of the ordinary. This is a trendy, whatever the fact is. So get the My Portal, sign up, have access. You never know when you're going to need it for you or your child or whoever, right? And so, that's that. So, of course, throughout it, the doctors make their rounds, and there's people in there. Sometimes they come by themselves, or they have other people with them. And naturally you think they're students or whatever. So anyway, day 6, day 6 was really bad for me personally, right? It felt like everything in my life I had no control over. Nothing. Like my daughter's health, what was going on, trying to figure out what was, what's going to get her better, what is the issue. I had just other things that was going on in my life from, afar. I just had no control. And y'all have heard me talk on here before about control being an illusion. Well, it was a new space for me, because it was everything. Every single thing that for my own self, I perceived to be an obstacle or a challenge or something, my perspective of everything that was going on in my life, I had no control over. And that was uncharted territory for me. And I say that being I'm used to, spending time alone, and now I'm in a hospital because I never left. I'm not going to leave, right? What does that look like, right? That's crazy. So staying in the hospital, sleeping in the hospital in there. And I think it wasn't until day 3 where I actually walked across the street to the store, and that was because I needed to get something for her. And then after that, I would just go downstairs to the front for a little bit and just sit outside. But you're still not by yourself, so it's hard to think and really focus, because when you're outside, it's still all you're surrounded by is nothing but sickness, right? It's all the in and out of the people getting discharged, coming in, ambulance, the nurses, even if you're just walking around because you don't want to go too far, right? So, even walking around like the building of the hospital, it's just sickness, right? It's just sickness. So being in that space, I don't have my sage. I can't burn my sage and cleanse. And I don't just have none of my tools and anything. The only thing I have is the power that's within me, right? But I ain't even going front, guys. It was shaking a little bit, trying to get back to that center, space, and making sure that my energy was good, because my energy needs to be good to be around her, because she could feel my energy, right? So it was a lot of pressure. It was a lot of pressure on me in that aspect. And then still being able to speak up and advocate for your kid. So that was day 6. Well, day 6, this one doctor, she comes in, and I had seen her before. She's been in there twice with another doctor, but she never said anything. So I thought she was just observing, and she was a student. It wasn't until that day before, that I knew that she was a doctor. And you'll hear why I'm telling you this part. So like I said, I've seen her 2 times in there before, but she's never spoken. It was only the male doctor that spoke. It was her and another lady. Thought they were students. They were just observing. Y'all already know how that goes. It wasn't until the next day I said to the nurse, I said, "Oh yeah, the doctor just left." And she's like, "Oh, just to let you know, that's Dr. such and such's student." I said, "Oh, okay. All right." Still didn't know who that Dr. such and such student was. I didn't know. I knew who the student was when she said it, because I was the doctor, but I didn't know who she was talking about when she told me the doctor's name is the actual doctor. And then when she came in, I then seen who she was. I'm like, yo, I've seen her before. She was in here twice, but I didn't know she was a doctor. Well, when she comes in that day, she comes in to check, and I said, okay, have you rechecked her numbers? Because at that point, her iron was a 9. And the lowest her iron has ever been was 11. And that was when they wanted to do a blood transfusion on her back in last year. And then her hematologist was like, well, before we go that route, let's do an iron infusion first, if that's okay with you. And I'm like, for sure, because that blood transfusion was real dramatic. I was like, oh shit, So anyhow, so the doctor's in there, and she's in here now a total of about maybe 6 minutes. And I said, okay, so are you going to check her levels again? And she's like, no. I'm like, why not? She was like, well, her electrolytes have been good. I said, yeah, but the issue right now is her iron, and she has iron things. And mind you, I've been saying this since Saturday. I've been telling what her whole background and history is to everybody that's in there, nurses and doctors, from Saturday night at 9 p.m. And she's like, no. And they had given her, sorry to back up, they gave her an iron supplement through her IV. And she said, oh my God, y'all. See what I mean about trying to remember this? Let me pause right here and let me back up. The plan, I don't remember what day this was. This might be day 3. The plan, they put her on nutrients. They had her on 24-hour nutrients, right? Because at this point with the malnourished, they like, we need to give her directly because she can't keep anything down. So then a dietitian comes in, and she was awesome, creates this whole plan. She looks at all of her levels, and then they create the nutrients. They have the pharmacy create the nutrients based off of her levels and where they want to get her to. So she has to get that for 24 hours straight. Then they called in another order for another 24 hours of the same thing. And then they added the libs in there, which is fats, right? They added that in there. So then my daughter had a moment of where she perked up, and she was just like, oh, like, I'm feeling good. As a mom, your kid, especially if you've been through things, and even just being in tune, I was like, my mom, like, this is a little false thing, right? She's perking up, of course, because you're pumping her with all these nutrients and stuff and whatnot. So then they said, okay, well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to let her try some food. We're just going to cancel that order of what we were going to do, and we were just going to let her try food. You can try whatever from the cafeteria. Just don't get like a hamburger or anything. In my mind, I was like, in my head, I'm like, that's not a good idea. So my daughter likes salmon. So she ordered salmon and grilled asparagus, right? To try to see if she could eat it. So she eats it, tries a little bit, and she instantly vomits. And now she's back down in the bed to how she was looking like in day 1 and day 2. And I'm pissed because I'm like, why would y'all encourage that? Of course, someone who hasn't had any food, at this point, she hadn't had any food since, that Saturday and the day she tried some pineapples, and that was when she was getting sick. And so she didn't even have that. So of course, now we're 3-4 days in, she's hungry, and you're telling her she can eat food. Of course, she's going to try to eat food. She going to do it. She's hungry. And it makes her sick. And it's like we went backwards. So now we go backwards, and your girl is pissed. And I'm saying to the noise, I was like, why don't we just stick to the plan? We should have just stuck to the plan. The plan was another 24 hours of the nutrients. And then after that second bag of the 24-hour of the nutrients, and they added on the fats, then we were going to go to the clear liquids, which is very limited on there. And then from the clear liquids, we were going to go to the full liquids. And then from the full liquids, if she was able to tolerate and keep that down, then we will start to introduce solid food. Makes fucking sense. Why would you change it? And they're like, oh, the doctor just got really excited because she perked up. I'm like, that doesn't even make any sense. Just because someone perks up once, you have to see a pattern. You have to see a pattern of this. So you go back. So I was already irritated from them because now it's like we're going backwards, right? So, all right. So they came and they say, yeah, you're right. Okay, we're back to the clear liquids. I'm like, okay. So that happened before. So then we fast forward back to what I was just talking about with that doctor. So then she was like, no, and wasn't ordering it because her electrolytes have been good. I mean, we don't need to order anymore. I said, well, I would like to have her iron checked because I want to see if that takes, because this is her pattern. The pattern is iron is low, not just the iron, because you have other things that make up, because you could have low iron, but if your other levels around it are high, sometimes it's not really much of a concern. Okay. So like her ferritin, the MCV, the MCH, right? So what would happen with her is her levels would be down. They would treat it and then check it and it's up, and check it again and it's back down. So it's like it's not absorbing, right? So for you to see, oh, this is her level, we gave her this, and you're not going to check it again, makes no sense to me. Like, I'm like, we're not walking out of here to just go home. We would leave from the hospital. We have to fly, take 2 flights and get to Virginia to then be with her doctors. I could see if we were just being discharged to go home in Arizona and we see the doctors and stuff there. No, her doctors and everything, all of that is in Richmond. That's where we see, that's where we do all of the stuff in the treatment. It's in Richmond. So it's not about like, oh, let me pump you up and just send you home and you're good. No, we still got to fly. And there's no way in hell. And then she's not going to be on no IV, no nutrients. So there's no way in hell she could just go. I need to know what her numbers are to make sure that it's safe enough for her to drive. To me, that's fucking common sense, right? To fly, I mean. And also I need to know what her numbers are if you end up discharging her, because then we can have a baseline to show the hematologist, this is what they were, before, this is what it was in the hospital, this is what it was upon leaving. So when you check it now, you can see, okay, it's steady. It stayed, it dropped, it went up, whatever the case may be. That just makes fucking sense to me. So this is what I'm, saying to her. And she was like, oh, well, we're just going to check it in the morning then to give it time for the stuff to see. Okay. One, it does make sense. Give it another day for the medicine, the supplement to work, right? But 2, she was just entertaining me to shut me up. So then she goes to check my daughter and checks her. And mind you, all this is over about 6 minutes. She goes to check my daughter's vitals or whatever she was doing. And then my daughter was like, I'm feeling really, really hot and I'm just feeling like achy. And then the doctor goes, oh, is it because what we're talking about? Y'all, I am boiling. And my daughter's like, no. So then she's like, okay, all right, well, we'll be back to check tomorrow. And then she leaves. So day 6 was my breaking point. So that doctor and the way she handled it in those few minutes just triggered everything that was going on with me. And I was in such a funk and just so shitty that I just had to go outside after that and just like, it was just awful. It was awful. So, what they say, the straw that broke the camel's back? Yeah, she was definitely the fucking straw. So that was then. Okay, so we're on day 7 and the nurse came in and they didn't do any labs. She said there wasn't any there. No, the doctor didn't call in any. So that's how I knew. Remember I told you, I said she was just entertaining me. She never ordered any labs for her. She had no intention on checking her labs at all. So they come in, do what they have to do, and then I said, okay, I'm going to go downstairs. Back up real quick. My mornings are very zen. They're very, very zen. And when I say very zen, I don't actually have any appointments scheduled before 11 a.m. The only time that's thrown off is when I'm actually in Arizona, because if someone books an 11 o'clock, it's 8 a.m. there, right? So I've been in Richmond, so I get up and I have my morning routine. I have my conversations with God. I read my book because I'm feeding myself mentally, physically, and, spiritually. So, I just have a routine that I do. And then I can have lots of unplanned conversations because I'm not rushing for anything, right? I have just so much time and it's beautiful. And for me, it sets the tone for my day, but it also allows me to have time for myself. So when I get busy for the rest of the day and I'm go, I don't feel guilty for not having time for myself because my day started off with time for myself, like amazing time, like hours, and it's beautiful. Well, now we're here. And of course, that whole thing is thrown off, right? So when you're someone who is being that person for so many people, it's hard, right? It's hard. You have different things. And then now your daughter's in the hospital and anybody will know, like, my kids are like my everything. I'm like, I'll burn this fucking this hospital down to make sure that you're going to hear me advocating and speaking up for my child, like straight up. So that, because the day before day 6 was so bad, I'm like, I don't know if I've actually honestly ever had a day like that in my life. And I've gone through some shit. I don't think that I've had I don't know. It was really rough. But anyway, so day 7, they didn't order the labs. And I was like, you know what? I cannot have another day like day 6 because I have to be strong and I have to be there for her. And So I said, I'm going to go outside now. It's early in the morning. I'm actually going to go out earlier than I normally do. So I go outside and I'm just sitting downstairs. I got my notebook and just getting some fresh air. And then my daughter texts me and she was like, I really don't like doctors talking to me without you in there. And I'm like, they came in? And she was like, yeah. And she told me which one. Well, once she told me which one it was the same one from the day before. The one that I just didn't, the version of herself that she showed me, I did not like. So I'm not going to say I don't like her because I don't know her, but the version that she showed me in that short period of time, I did not like. So I was like, well, what'd she say? And she was like, the doctor said, oh, this is our first time being able to talk to you without your mom. Is there anything that you want to tell us? What? What? And then she was like, what's your relationship like with your mom? Y'all, your girl is fucking livid, pissed, all types of shit. And I'm on the phone with my friend and I'm reading the text message. I was like, all right, I'm coming up. So I come upstairs. And as I'm upstairs, like she said, I'm just pissed. I'm like, this fucking bitch. Yes, that's what I said. I was like, this fucking bitch. I'm like, you don't even know anything. Like, you're sitting there asking, like, you had ample amount of time to talk to her without me being there. Because there was 2 times when I went downstairs to the Starbucks down there that the GI doctor came in and the other doctor had came in, and they both were like, well, we don't really have much of an update. But if your mom has any questions or anything, like, she could, let the nurse know or whatever. So no one else said anything to her. And I'm like, and if anybody had any concerns or anything, it was a social worker that came in, and that's her lane. She would have said something, and there was never, because there's nothing, So whatever. So when I get in, I'm still on the phone with my friend, and then I call the nurse, and the nurse comes in. I said, can you tell that doctor, don't she ever talk to my child without me being present? And I said, matter of fact, I don't even want her involved. I don't even want her coming back in here. And she's like, okay, I'll let her know. And I was like, thank you. And I'm on the phone with my friend. I'm pissed. And I'm like, this bitch. And then I said, you know what? Matter of fact, I was like, hey, God. I'm saying this with my friend in front. I'm like, hey, God, actually, I do want to have a conversation with that fucking lady. I said, I do want to. I do want to talk to her. Not even a minute later, she knocks on the door and she's like, hey, it's Dr. such and such. And I said, I know who you are. And she was like, can we talk in the other room? I said, we absolutely can. And then my friend was on, she's like, oh my God, is that the doctor? I said, yep. And I was like, I'll call you back. So we go into the room, and when we're in the room, she says, the nurse said that, you were upset and I just wanted to have like a conversation with you. And I said, yeah. I said, okay, well, this is where we're going to start at. Let's go all the way back. I said, first of all, I didn't even know you were a doctor. I thought you were a student. And she just looked taken back. And I said, yeah, because the other guy was talking. She was like, oh, you didn't know that he was a resident? I said, I didn't know until the nurse had told me, oh, just to let you know, that's Dr. such and such student. And I didn't even know when she said the doctor's name that person was you. And she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. She said, I'm so sorry he never identified himself as a resident. And I said, you never identified yourself as a doctor. So let's start right there, right? So don't put that off on him. I thought she was a student. And now here it is, you're the doctor, and you're the one that's asking her these questions in the relationship, and I've never even talked to you. And when you were in the room those 2 times before, you never said one word. And now you're sitting here saying like, oh, as her pediatrician, we don't even know you. You finally said something the day before that, day 6. And that was for about 6 minutes. So I went through and, and she's like, oh, I just, felt that as her pediatrician, it was, I just needed, that was morally for me to like ask that and some of it is dumb shit. And I said, again, we didn't even know you was a doctor. So how are you her pediatrician? So then I said, and then when she told you she wasn't feeling well, what you said to her was, is it because what we're talking about? And I say, you then made her feel like as if it was in her head. And I said, and these are her words. And she was like, oh, no, that was not the intentions. I said, had you had taken a little bit of time and talked to the nurse, you would have known that right before you came in, she told the nurse the same thing. So it has nothing to do with what we were talking about. oh, one of the worst things that we can do as a physician is to make a patient feel like it's in their head. I absolutely know that it's not in her head. And I'm so sorry about that. Whatever. Sorry guys. I'm not even accepting your apology because it's a bunch of bullshit. And the reason why I say it's a bunch of bullshit because everything else that she followed with it and stuff. So then I said it and it was like you're trying to rush her out. I was like, you're trying to rush her out the hospital. And she's like, no, I just know that once people have been here for like 5 days, they're ready to go. I'm like, yeah, we're ready to go. She's ready to go. I'm ready to go. I said, you think I want to be here? Much rather be in Richmond with her doctors and my support system. All of our family and everybody is there. We have nobody here. One friend. That's it. Not to diminish or take anything away from her, but that's it. So of course we don't want to be in here, but at the same time, I want to make sure she's, safe enough for her to fly. Imagine being in the air and going through what she's going through, right? And then she's like, oh man, she said, yeah. And she started asking me this stuff and I'm telling her all about with the iron. She's like, I'm so sorry. She's like, I'm just not really familiar when it comes to like hematology and like iron levels and stuff. So I just wasn't ordering like any of that. She's like, because I didn't know it was an ongoing issue. I said, well, I don't know how you didn't know when I've been saying it since Saturday. And I said, and you were in the room 2 of the times when I thought you was a student observing. So how did you not know? So this is the thing, guys. People will try to backpedal onto things that they say. Sometimes people allow them to do that even though that they're full of shit and they're lying. You got to stop that. You got to stop that. You got to call people out on their shit because this is how people evolve and this is how people grow. And I'm going to call you out on your shit. So when you say like, oh, I didn't know, you want to be like, oh, I didn't know. I'm so sorry. No, fuck that. You did know. How could you not have known when I've been saying this from Saturday and you were in the room 2 of the times when I thought you were a student observing? So how can you not know? Yeah, you're right. You're right. You have been saying that. Yeah, I know. Then she tried to hit me with, she's your daughter. She's such a good and just a sweet kid. And I said, I know, she's my daughter. Like, you're not telling me nothing new. Like, stop trying to, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Then I hit her with, I was like, I don't really go there. I said, but we're going to go there. I said, she's also African-American female in this healthcare system. So let's talk about that, right? Because you were trying to dismiss it. You were literally trying to dismiss things and to just rush her on out of here for whatever reason. So then I said, well, then the other doctor, because I didn't know his name, I said, which is the resident. And I said, the other doctor, I said, he was really pushing for this medicine for like 2 days. And she was like, which one? She's like, the older gentleman? Like it even freaking mattered. And I said, yeah. She's like, oh, okay, I just got to just make sure because I have more than one resident. She's like, yeah, this is what she said. Lordy, y'all. She said, yeah, he's like 50 and he's on his second career. And I'm like this young, short, Asian doctor. And I said, but that's okay. I said, I think it's very courageous for people to pivot at some point in their life to do something different, maybe something that they felt called to do. The fuck? Did you really just down this man because he's almost 50 in his second career and you're this young Asian, like what? Y'all, she told me so much. You know how sometimes you project and sometimes you look at people and you judge or whatever? You 100% just validated my thoughts of you judging me and my daughter. Because you just judged this man that's a doctor because he's almost in his 50s in his second career. Why the hell are you even saying that, judging him? And on top of that, why are you even saying that to me? First of all, it played no role in anything that we were talking about. All I said was, yeah, that doctor was really advocating for that medicine that I didn't really want to, we didn't, not just me, Destiny also didn't want to do. And that was all that I was saying because it was in the context of it. And you wanted me to identify which doctor was that. Does it fucking matter? And then you're going to saying that. So I'm like, yo, this shit was just wild. So then she's like, oh, what's her hematologist name? Asking me all these questions. And doctor, what's their phone number? I'll make sure that they get all the records and everything in there. And I'm like, why do you think I kept asking you these things? Okay, what is the medicine called? How do you spell that? Okay, what is her number on this? What is, because I don't have a my chart with them. Now that I'm in the system, I'll get it on discharge. So I'm like, well, I was like, why do you think I'm writing all these things down? Why do you think I was even showing the other doctors her things and stuff to be able to see? And I was like, this is what my idea, what in my head, what I would have liked. I said to continue with that medicine, let her, I said, do what I was saying in the beginning, the clear liquids, the full liquids to get to the point to take the actual food and then hopefully be able to be discharged on Sunday. But we're not going to fly out on Sunday because I want her body to be able to rest and be, a little bit stronger. Then we'll fly back to Richmond on Monday. Oh, I think that's a really good plan. That's a really good plan. Why the fuck am I giving you the plan? But you know why? Because we should never put our health into one person's hands. We should never think that person is going to 100% have that you or your child or whatever's best interest at heart. Because right now, they just making rounds. The nurses are dope, are amazing. They're the ones who spend 12-hour shifts with you. They're the ones who talk to you. The doctors will pop their little asses in there for a couple of minutes. It's not all doctors, because I had this primary doctor, I will say his name, Dr. Kapoor, but he broke up with me a couple of years back and decided to move his ass to Florida. How dare him? He was amazing. He was the one that caught that I had lupus. He was the one that wasn't feeling well for something, and he ran these tests. I had no idea what lupus was, anything of there. And he called me in. Then when they got the results, the next day he called the nurse and was like, have her come right in. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, who does that? You know what I mean? You'd be like, oh, your follow-up appointment. We'll tell you what your blood works. He was like, get your ass in here. Came in there. He sat down with me. He said, this is what these numbers are. This is what it's looking like. And he said, I am not a specialist in autoimmunes, but I know enough to know that this is not a normal level. And I want to refer you to an autoimmune, a rheumatologist. That's for lupus, right? For the lupus. He was amazing, right? He would ask you things that I might not even seen him for 2 months, and he would ask something, whether he remembers it in his head or he jots it down in the notes. Like, she talked about her daughter this, she talked about that. That to me is just dope. It's like, it's old school nursing. It's old school doctors, house calls, right? Where they actually fucking care and not just let me just see you for 5 minutes and be like, let me just get your ass out the hospital. Like, because we don't care. We're just going to just do this and keep it moving. Anyway. So, again, you have to speak up for yourself. No one knows your body better than you know your body. Same thing with my daughter when she was like, I never felt like this before. This is how this is feeling. This is how I'm feeling. You have to advocate for yourself, and then you have to advocate for your child, and you have to speak up. And if that means you are the one that's coming up with a plan, then you trust that shit and you speak up and you advocate for it, right? So I was so pissed. And, I always got to reflect and check and scan. And I'm like, what was it that I said that made you want to ask those questions? Oh, because I was advocating for my daughter and I wanted you to do more tests. I'm not trying to keep her. So my friend was like, oh my God, was she thinking, I think it was like Munchausen's or some shit, like something with the word munch in it, where it's like, the parent says that the kid is sick, so then the kid thinks that they're sick, right? Which none of this, and I don't know if that's what she was thinking or not, but that was what my friend was saying. I was like, oh my fucking God, that would be crazy, because first of all, numbers don't lie. I can't make you sick to the point that your numbers and your things are like changing or whatever. So because I spoke up and I said, hey, can you run these tests? Like, can we not just jump straight to the solid foods? Because you see what ended up happening. And I didn't even say that shit out loud. That was in my head that I was already thinking. And because that just to me was common sense. If you've gone all those days without actually eating, how can you just eat food and then be just completely like, okay, it just doesn't make any sense. Your body is already used to not eating. So now you're shocking the body. So you got to go easy with it in that sense. But yeah, so I just started thinking about how many parents and stuff just put all of their trust into doctors and are afraid to really just speak up because they feel like they just don't know. And like, yeah, whatever you're thinking or feeling might be what you're thinking and feeling, but the doctor knows best. The doctor knows best because they went to school for it, Like, how many of the people aren't advocating for their kids or even advocating and nothing is being, really done? You still need to continue to like advocate for them, because at the end of the day, a doctor is another human being with their own set of shit like all of us, right? And then they have to see so many different patients and they're just in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. So how can they possibly know what's completely best if you don't get the whole picture and you're not taking in the whole picture? This is not a kid that you can log into your system and see it's connecting and stuff. We're in another state where all of her records and everything is. How could you know? And then you being this one saying, oh, as her pediatrician, well, we didn't even know you were a doctor. You never even talked to her. The first time you talked to her, and the first time you actually directly talked to her was when she was telling you how she felt, and you leaned over and you said, is it because of what we were talking about? And I swear to God, y'all, she said it in that exact fucking tone. Ask my daughter, is it because what we're talking about? What? Unfucking believable. Like, unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. Anyway, so that's what I've been going through. That's what my daughter has been going through. At the time of me recording this right now, so day 8, she was able to be discharged and her numbers were up enough to be able to fly out. So as I'm recording this right now, we are flying out tonight to Richmond to start the second half of the battle, which is to work back with the hematologist and the GI doctor. So that's going to be its own battle, guys. So you guys can send us, send like my daughter some love and some energy and some like wisdom to the doctors to really kind of figure out what is going on from that aspect. Of course, healing is an inside job. We have to tackle the emotions and the other things that play into a part of that. So we want to attack it from both sides. So my daughter working on things like with herself, that's going to also help to heal herself along with the Western part. We gotta tag team this joint, right? And through prayers. Absolutely. Through just, praying. Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of give you guys a little insight into that with all of the intentions of speak up, advocate for yourself, and advocate for your children. Never put all of what they say, don't put all the eggs in one basket. Don't ever rely on another human being to know and to feel what is best for you or what is best for your child, because no one knows what's best for you better than what you know for yourself. And the next best thing with your children, knowing their body, is their parent. Is the parent to be able to speak up, ask questions. Well, what is this? Or what does that mean? Get on Google, right? If they say, oh, her level is low and this is it. Okay, so now educate yourself. There's a lot of you're fine with Googling, well, what does low iron mean? And you can get your own history. So that way you can participate in the conversations of what they're saying, because they're not going to educate you. They're not in there long enough to educate you on anything, like at all. So at some point, when we learn more, I will definitely update you guys on her healing journey. In the meantime, I'm going to focus, on her, because we have some, upcoming appointments and stuff with her GI and hematologist, things that we have to go through. So I'm going to take a little bit of a break. But also during that, I'll be interviewing, some more people and bringing some more stuff to you. And we're going to rock out with season 2 of Seeing with Your Soul. And again, in the meantime, get caught up on some other ones, trust your intuition. Maybe you go to the podcast thing and close your eyes and just scroll on down and just stop when you feel it in your gut to stop, and you stop on that episode and know that message is for you. Until then, I love you guys. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Seeing with Your Soul. If something you heard resonated with you, feel free to rate, review, and share with others. If you are looking to go deeper, you can connect with Tisha Michelle on Instagram at Mindset Slayer or visit www.healingalignedglow.com.